Greg is unique in his devotion to the study of children as an economist with an extraordinary understanding of human behavior. In the spirit of transdisciplinary talents necessary for a successful developmental science, he has amalgamated economical and psychological thinking into an impressive array of work detailing first the impact of economic distress, and then the processes by which poverty limits the developmental success of some children, and finally efforts to improve children's fates. After graduating from Grinnell College, he went to Michigan, go Blue, where he completed a doctorate in labor economics and remained there at the Institute for Social Research to work on the PSID, the Panel Study of Income Dynamics, where he examined the effects of income, and especially poverty, on the development of children and their families. After 2 decades at Michigan, working on and ultimately directing the PSID, he moved to Northwestern, where he became the Edwina S. Terry Professor in the School of Education and Social Policy. He is currently a distinguished professor in the Department of Education at the University of California, Irvine. Duncan's PSID-based 1984 book, Years of Poverty, Years of Plenty, documented the turbulent nature of family structure and economic status in the United States, and helped promote more sophisticated longitudinal conceptions and analyses of social science phenomena. His outreach efforts helped to launch household panel studies in Germany, the Netherlands, Great Britain, France, and Luxembourg at last count. Beginning in the late 1980s, his research began to focus on the impact of family and neighborhood conditions on children's cognitive and behavioral development, and in collaboration with Jeannie Brooks Gunn, produced the widely cited 1997 book, Consequences of Growing Up Poor. In the same year, Duncan's involvement with the Social Science Research Council's Committee for Research on the Urban Underclass led to the 2-volume book, Neighborhood Poverty, co-authored with Brooks Gunn and Larry Aber. In the Bronfenbrenner spirit of changing development in order to understand it, he joined in the Milwaukee New Hope Project to study the effects of supplementing income on the life of families and children. The success of the New Hope program in boosting the academic achievement of inner-city minority males were detailed in the 2007 book, Higher Ground, New Hope for the Working Poor and Their Children. This was co-authored with Aletha Houston and Tom Weisner, and won the 2007 Princeton University Lester Prize for the Outstanding Book in Labor Economics. More recently, the focus of his research has shifted from these environmental influences to the study of early behaviors. In particular, he has sought to understand the relative importance of early academic skills, cognitive and emotional self-regulation, and health in promoting children's eventual success in school and the labor market. Greg's accomplishments and honors from his colleagues are many, including elected presidencies of the Midwest Economics Association, the Population Association of America, and the Society for Research and Development. Institute, Society for Child Development. Is that the place we're in? Sorry, my pages got a little mixed up there. His work is also singular, and it's led to election to almost every scientific academy, including the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in 2001, the National Academy of Education in 2009, and most recently, the National Academy of Sciences in 2010. Despite the seriousness of his accomplishments, Greg has always had a lighter side, especially evident in the title of his papers and presentations. Among these are, Does Money Really Matter? Estimating Impacts of Family Income, Off with Hollingshead, Socioeconomic Resources, Parenting and Child Development, Cleaning Up Their Act, The Impact of Marriage and Cohabitation, and Evaluating the Role of Nothing to Lose, Attitudes on Risky Behavior. In this spirit is the title of his SRCD presidential address, Give Us This Day Our Daily Breath. Please help me welcome our president, Greg Duncan.
Thank you very much, Arnie. And let me add my thanks to Dr. Guttmacher for taking the time from his busy schedule to come and spend a few days with us. I was part of the vision workshop on the environment. We went for 2 days and almost all of one night, it seemed to me, trying to craft our consensus, and he was there for almost the entire time taking notes. It was very impressive. And we were very excited to see the kind of vision that you were laying out and look forward to participating in that process. And special thanks for introducing my talk. One of my favorite New Yorker cartoons shows Christopher Columbus at the court of King Ferdinand. Columbus has just returned from his historic voyage only to be greeted by these words: "Just tell me about the new continent. I don't give a damn what you discovered about yourself." I will ignore this admonition and proceed to tell you a little bit about myself. My early career was shaped by my economics training, as Arnie mentioned, and a quarter century spent at the University of Michigan's Institute for Social Research. Child development was a personal but not professional interest for most of those years. My work centered on the longitudinal study that I was involved with for nearly a quarter century. Arnie mentioned this, the panel-selective income dynamics, which, as we shall soon see, continues to document the dynamic nature of families' economic and demographic fortunes within and across generations. Here I am in my younger days with my colleague Mary Corcoran. Styles of dress and appearance were certainly different back then, and they were even more different a few years earlier. Moving along quickly. The Institute for Social Research was and is a profoundly interdisciplinary institution. James Morgan, shown here with Tom Juster, was my primary mentor in my early years, but giants like Francis Likert, and that's Likert and not Likert, if you're talking about the scales, Angus Campbell, Robert Kahn, Robert Zients, also roamed the halls and manned the communal coffee tables. My initial immersion into developmental thinking came in a research network organized in 1988 by the Social Science Research Council. The network's mission was to understand the neighborhood effects embodied in William Julius Wilson's seminal book, The Truly Disadvantaged. Larry Aber, Tom Cook, Jean Brooks Gunn, Jim Connell, and others would hold forth for hours, and I'm sure would say very distinguished things, but I often had no clue what anyone was talking about. But I stuck with it and made lifelong friends and maybe figured some things out. Of the more than 150 collaborators I have published with during my career, the overwhelming majority have been from disciplines other than economics, including, I might add, my esteemed Quebecois colleague, sociologist Joanne Boisjoli, who's in the audience this evening. My greatest professional debt is to Jeannie Brooks Gunn, also in the audience, who immediately saw the value of harnessing some of the ideas and methods used by economists like me for the sake of understanding the roles of family, neighborhood, and policy contexts in children's lives. The Nobel laureate Friedrich von Hayek once said, "The economist who is only economist is likely to become a nuisance, if not a positive danger." Many economists have taken this to heart. Several have partnered with Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky to bring principles of cognitive psychology into the economics of decision-making. Neuroscience enriches behavioral economics with its use of functional neuroimaging and other methods to understand what is going on in the brain as we make decisions involving risk and present-future trade-offs. And economists have decades-long history of testing some of their theories using animal models. For example, establishing once and for all that rats and pigeons will consume less food as the effort required to secure it increases. In other words, they have downward-sloping demand curves. In contrast to these interdisciplinary successes, few insights from developmental psychology have penetrated the conceptual models or empirical methods that economists, and I might add many sociologists, use in their numerous studies of child well-being. Until very recently, economic models assumed an undifferentiated single period of childhood in which optimizing investment decisions are made by parents or governments on behalf of children. If adolescents are studied, they are typically assumed to be as fully rational in their decision-making as adults. Psychometric considerations are typically ignored, and mediational models are rarely seen. Worse yet, All child capabilities other than IQ and achievement are often lumped into a single category and termed, of all things, non-cognitive. As a result, economists' empirical studies throw attention problems, antisocial behavior, mental health, motivation, self-esteem, locus of control, and whatever other measures happen to be available in the data set at hand into a single index of non-cognitive skills. There are, of course, a number of important exceptions to this broad brush tarring of my economics colleagues, but the point remains that developmental psychology is generally invisible within this discipline. As a frequent reviewer of proposals and manuscripts submitted by economists and sociologists regarding child well-being, I find myself repeatedly encouraging authors to incorporate at least the simplest insights from developmental psychology into their conceptual models and empirical methods. And what about the reverse? To what extent does developmental science open itself up to the models and methods of other disciplines?